Morning, everybody. Morning. It's the last session of the Urban Scenes and Buildings project. So just to do a very quick recap, I've really done different sorts of demonstrations each lesson, or each session. The first session talked a bit about perspective, two-point perspective. So that's one of the demos from that. And then started to do a little bit on street scenes using pen and wash. So that's either watercolour wash or just shades of grey wash. So that's that one. Then last week I did a little demonstration on drawing buildings using charcoal. So that's good. And I thought I'd use a bit of colour this week, and I'll use acrylic. So this is a bit closer to what I normally do myself. I brought a couple of examples of some of my paintings. So these are actually all in oil paints, which is what I quite enjoy using. So this one probably took me about 3 or 4 hours. It's all painting on location. And it's pretty much the process I'm going to just demonstrate is pretty much what I did here with this one. I tend to start off with some sort of line drawing. If I'm using oil paints, I tend to just use the paint itself because it's very easy to shift around. Because I'm using acrylics today, I've drawn it out just using some pastel pencil, just because the pencil is a little bit, I've made a few mistakes here and there. It's a little bit easier to shift than the acrylic paint itself, which once it dries very quickly. So I thought I'd just use the pastels. And that way, if I've got bits wrong, I can just wash areas out. Like that bit there, that line can go. So I can just wash that on the way. And I'll move these windows over a little bit, so I just get rid of bits I don't want. The way I tend to approach paintings of buildings is almost sort of blocking in shapes, and then I'll let that layer dry, and then I'll put some more details over the top. So that's really the approach. I don't worry about drawing all the windows in, say this building here. I'll just basically get the light and dark shapes on there, and then once that'll dry, or sometimes even when it's wet, I can still put some more paint over the top. So I'll just paint a section of this. Doesn't matter too much where you start. I'll probably start with the buildings and then put the sky in afterwards. But you could start with the sky if you wanted. It doesn't matter too much. If I was going to work with this building here, mix a little bit of paint. So I'm just using a little bit of, I've got 2 blues here. I've got a slightly greeny blue and a purpley blue. I'm going to mix the 2 together. Just to give me something close to what I've got there. If you're trying to get nice colour matches, if you've got a bit of plastic, you can always just use this bit. Now, acrylics will dry a little bit darker than they are wet, so this is a little bit lighter. That is a little bit lighter, so I'm hoping that will dry to the sort of tone that I've got there. So I could just block these areas in. It was quite a flat light, this light, but I think what I'll do is perhaps try and create a little bit of light and dark. So I'll make this side slightly darker, and then the other side I'll add a little bit of white to this side, make that a little bit lighter. It's picking up a little bit of colour really. I've deliberately drawn it quite dark so you can see the lines, but if I was going to do this for myself, I probably would just pick a tone that I can just about see. Perhaps something like, just something fairly light would work, perhaps that sort of light. And ideally a colour that will blend in with the colours I've got. So this is a blue building, so perhaps a blue or pale grey would work quite well. So I can just block in these big shapes here. Got that bit. The roof is a nice grey, so make that into a grey. A little bit of blue and brown to make a grey. Blue. And I find these flat brushes quite useful when painting buildings because I can just cut into all the little shapes. Nice sharp brushes like that. Come down to about here. And then ideally let that dry, but I will just carry on like it would be. Could go a little bit darker for the guttering level. So mix some, I don't have a grey or black, I'll mix a darkish grey. A bit darker here. And the windows themselves, I need to just make sure I get all these angles right. So I'm talking a bit about angles, aren't we? So the bottoms of the windows are going to be at that sort of angle. I've got this line here, whatever that is. So let's paint that in, that'll be quite useful to have. And that gives me a bit of a guide of tops and bottoms. And again, just using the flat brush, sense of where the windows would be. And the last one just in there. And that one's a bit stronger. And then the next level is going to be a slightly shallower angle, but they're going to line up in this case. And I find sometimes just making a few marks like that is enough to suggest a window. You don't always have to. Sometimes I'll put the window bars in, which you can see in some of these paintings, but sometimes that's enough. Or you might just want to get a little tiny brush and just put a few dots and dashes to suggest like window ledges, kind of window sills, that sort of thing. And one thing to be careful of is that you don't make all this too wide. So these buildings are going back in space. This one actually wants to be a tiny bit longer, I think, just to give it a sense of a different angle. And then once I've got that in, I can work down to the next level, a little bit shallower angle, and then we've got a big, sort of really big kind of doorway there that I think horse and carts would have gone through. So this was took this in Cambridge, so this is part of the oldest bit of Cambridge. And then a few windows there. And basically I've just treated the whole scene like that. I'll probably get all the colours blocked in first and then go over with the details. Any questions? No, all good?
Were you diluting with water?
It's acrylics, not really, no, just I think acrylic is quite fluid anyway, really. So no, I haven't. I think because I paint with oils, I find the acrylics are more fluid than oils anyway. So I tend to just use them out of the tube. Yeah. Okay, right.